Welcome back to the Lair Academy series, Building a Blog in Laravel. And let's just start off by taking a quick recap of what we have so far. So last episode we went and we implemented some authentication here. And we started off with just the username password and the default of a back-end administration account where we can update posts and create posts. Now what we're going to do is we're going to clean this up so we can delete these posts here, as well as change the statuses and make sure that we update those publish chat dates. So to get started, let's load up our IDE, and we're going to open up the administration blog index view here. And let's just go all the way down to the bottom, and what we're going to do is we'll add a class under our button here to make it a little bit smaller. We'll just copy this and we'll make a link for delete here. We'll just name this delete, change that to edit. And we want to make sure that our route is destroy. Let's just go and double check this route. So let's save this file, load up our routes here, and we want to go to administration routes, so we'll load that one up. And if we scroll down, we can see that we do have a destroy in here. We need to make sure that this destroy accepts a parameter of ID. And it doesn't matter if you have a slash in there, but I'll keep it in there. The next thing we need to do is make sure our controller has a destroy function. Now I don't see it in here, so we're going to go ahead and create one. So we'll just do a public function destroy, and we're going to pass in an ID. And while we're here and thinking, let's head back over to administration routes, and we want to make sure that this is a number. So we'll say where the ID that we're going to put in is a regex, so any number between 0 and infinity, and we just want 1 or more. So it has to be 1 through 9, so 1 to 100 would work. And back in our controller, what we're going to have to do is let's first look up this post. So we'll say where the ID is equal to the ID and just grab the first one. And for some reason, if we cannot find this post, let's redirect. So we'll say return redirect route, and we want to go to administration.blog. And if everything is correct, let's just go ahead and delete this post, and let's just copy this in so we go back to the blog itself. So back in here, let's actually do one more thing. Let's make sure when we click it, we return a confirmation. Are you sure? So what we're doing here is just making sure that if we click this button by accident, we're not actually going to delete something. So we're going to confirm to say, are you sure? So to try this out, let's give it a refresh. See, we have our buttons here, so let's delete one of these. Let's just click on delete. And we have our confirmation there. We'll say cancel, so nothing happens. Let's go ahead and actually delete one. See, that line is actually gone, so let's delete this other one to clean it up. Now if we take a look at our home, we'll have our message here, and that's because we don't have any posts. So the next thing we want to clean up is this publish at date. Instead of using a default date or a null date, we want to add a if statement here to say only display the date if it is published. So if we have that and we save it, give it a refresh, because it's not published, we don't have anything in there. Alright, so let's work on cleaning up the status here. And we'll start off by switching over to our administration routes. Again, just making sure that our routes are in here and they look like they are, and they're actually working. They're going to be working fine. So let's switch over to our index.blade.php, and let's add some bootstrap in here to create a drop-down menu. We'll start with the not published. So we're just going to have some basic bootstrap. So a button. Let's give it a type of button. Let's give it a class. And then we're just going to give it some default drop-down tags here. So our data toggle. Also have a pop-up, and last but not least, we'll have our expanded. And we'll just give it not published, and we'll have the span of a caret in there to give us that little triangle. And the next thing we're going to do is have our actual action menu, and let's actually put this outside our if statement because we're going to be using this in both. So we'll just have a unordered list, so drop down menu, we'll have one list item for publish, and let's actually copy this, and we'll have another one for unpublish. So let's go ahead and let's save this and take a look at it. If we give it a refresh, looks good, but it's appearing over there. So let's go back here. Let's wrap everything inside a button group. So we'll make a div for button group. We'll just tab everything over, put it in our button group here, give it another refresh, and this should actually work, and it's looking fine. Alright, so let's move forward. Switching back to our IDE, let's actually put in the route here. So once again, in administration routes, we will copy this administration.publish. We'll just add in URL route, and we'll paste this in here, and accepting post ID. And so we'll just throw that in. Let's double check on that route here. While we're doing this, let's say unpublish. And yep, both accept an ID, and it is unpublished. So we can go ahead and save this. The next step we want to do is create the published method in our controller. And I know that this does not exist, so let's go ahead to our bottom. Let's add a public function publish, accepting an ID, and let's think about this. Let's load up the post, and the next thing we want to do is we're going to have to change a bunch of values here. So let's actually load up the post model, and we need to change is publish. And actually, you know what, let's make this a helper function. So let's call this publish post, and in our model, switch over to post. We'll just come down, make a little comment for helpers. We'll make a public function publish post, and inside this post, or inside this function, we have access to this, which is the model itself. So we'll say is published is true. And the other thing we want to change is the published at. Now this is a date, so we can just use PHP's date function. So you could say date, year, day, month, or month, day, year. But actually, you know what we're going to do? Let's use carbon. So we can say just carbon colon now to give today's date. We want to make sure that we import that namespace at the top. So use carbon/carbon. And finally, let's actually save our model. So just say save. And so we're going to publish it, make sure the publish at date is today. Then we're going to save it. And the final thing we're going to do here is just redirect back to our blog. Let's go ahead and save this. Let's give it a test. So let's refresh, and let's publish our first post. And you can see our status is now published. We have a published at date, and we have some information here. You can see we have some HTML tags, which we will clean up later. So let's work on the unpublish. And so let's create another post here. And this post is just going to be a post to play with, just to make sure that we have two of them. And we'll just say this is some information about the post, and this text is now bold, just so we have some HTML in there. Alright, so everything looks good. We can come in, we can edit this, so we can make this part underlined. So this text is also underlined. Let's underline it. Just do an update. We can publish it, and everything is working. So let's make sure that if for some reason we need to unpublish a post, we can do that. So let's just copy this button. We'll just name it publish, so that we have the ability to unpublish a post. And once again, we have to create that function. So we'll just duplicate this code. We may come back and refactor this. So instead of publish post, we'll have unpublished post, and this is going to be the opposite of publish posts. And all we're going to do is set is publish defaults. Make sure that we save our model. So once again, we load our post, we unpublish it, and then we redirect back. So if we give this a refresh, we now have a drop down where we can unpublish these posts. So you can see that we have two posts here. When we unpublish one, we give their front page a refresh, we just have that one post. So everything is working properly. So the next thing I want to do is just fix some of the style and little tidbits that are a little hard on the eyes. So let's switch over to our editor, and if our post is published, we want to make sure that we supply a link to the post itself. Otherwise, we'll just show actually what the slug is. So we'll just make a link for the slug, and we'll have to look this route up. I believe it is just view, and view accepts a slug, so post slug. We can just double check that quickly, and we can see that everything's right. So if we give it a refresh, because this post is published, that is a link for us. The next thing we want to do is let's go ahead and try and make this group a little bit better. So we'll have a button group of small, and let's actually remove these links and put them in a button group itself. Let's give that a save. You can see everything is starting to become a little more clear. The next thing we'll probably want to do is let's check if we have some Font Awesome. Font Awesome allows us to add icons pretty easy. So let's grab the CDN for Font Awesome, and let's just copy this in here, and we'll paste this in our master file. We'll just make a comment for Font Awesome, and we'll just grab the link, style sheet, paste it over top here, and this gives us access to all of the icons in Font Awesome. So you can see there is actually a bunch there. So let's style some of these buttons. So let's head back to our index, and if we're editing, we're going to use the pencil icon, and if we are deleting, let's use the trash icon here. So you can see we have those icons, and the next thing we want to do is change the color. We'll make sure that our ad is success and yes. So we'll make a plus icon for create, and actually let's change the warning to danger. I always get those mixed up. I like the red a little bit better. So now that we're done with our administration index page here, let's start off with our create post. So this is pretty ugly, so let's open up our create.blade, and the easiest thing we can do is add some color into our save button here. And actually let's put it inside a row, and we will make an 8 column with an offset of 2, and we'll give it a button block to make sure it's a nice big button that we can read. And let's handle this summer note here. So we'll do some fallbacks. So we'll say the class is going to be a form control. We'll also add a style of a height 300, and finally at the top, if the JavaScript is working, we'll make sure that the height is actually 300. Let's give that a save and refresh. You can see that it's nice and big now. The next thing, let's go ahead and let's edit a post and see that we have to basically copy the stuff that we have here. So we'll copy the height, and let's actually add in our fallbacks, so our class and our style here. And next thing we want to do is have this update post, a nice big button. So we'll come down, we'll just grab what we have, we'll paste this in and update our value, and to me that should be pretty good. Now you may want to have a cancel button here, but that's your choice. And that is it for the back end. Next I think we'll take a look at what happens on the front end and clean up that HTML.